You are now listening to the District 2 Sports Podcast, available on Podbean, Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. It costs you nothing to smash that like button. Leave us a review and follow District 2 Sports on Facebook, X, and Instagram for more content and coverage. Now, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
All right, so District 2 Sports Podcast, and today we are in Roanoke, Virginia, as we talk with Coach Nick Leftwich, head football coach of the William Fleming Colonels. Leftwich has guided the Colonels to a 7-3 regular season record, the number 3 seed in 5C, and maybe most importantly, depending on who you ask, the number 7 ranking in the District 2 Sports Podcast poll. Coach, congratulations on a great season so far, and welcome to the show.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys having me.
Coach, we kind of talked about it already a little bit, but I wanted to start off with your game tonight there. You're playing against Freeman there, a familiar foe that I think you guys played back in 2023, I believe, a 23-20 win over them. I know the players have changed, but are you going back and look at the same film, or how are you tackling tonight's game with them?
We look at the film from 2 years ago, but like you said, it's two totally different teams now. They're a little bit similar that the from the 2023 season, but they got new players. They're a very aggressive bunch. They got some speed. They're physical. They fly to the football. Multiple offensive formations. Got some aggressive special teams. So we're gonna have to lock in tonight and execute and just keep our 1-0 mentality, play in and play out. And if we play our brand, we should be fine.
And we talked to Coach Fiddler early in the season, and we kind of mentioned this. You guys are matched up with those Richmond area teams, and I guess according to your history, and maybe not, but do you feel like an underdog at all to these Richmond area teams, compared to Roanoke?
I don't know that we see ourselves as underdogs. We are the outlier. Us, Franklin County, PH, and Albemarle. Every other school was in that Richmond area or surrounding areas. And that's part of what comes with being a 5A program in this part of the state. There's not many. We'll play who we have to play, anytime, anywhere. So it is unique for us, but we've had some success in the past couple of years. We've been to 2 straight region championships, and we would like to get back there and ultimately win it and move on to that state semifinal round. But the first goal is to handle today. So we like to tell our guys we're fighting for Mondays, not Fridays, because we got to get to that Monday first for that first day of prep. So we keep a 1-0 mentality day by day. We take it one day at a time. I got people asking me all the time, "You guys ready for Friday?" And it'll be Monday, and I'm like, "No." And it's like yesterday, people are asking me, they're like, "Are you guys ready for tomorrow?" And I'm like, "No, we got to practice today first." So that's our kids think that way. They know the mentality they need to have, and just go out there, execute, and have fun while you do it.
Coach, I know I've looked at your schedule, and it's not like you guys have played the Sisters of the Poor by no means. So just kind of curious, what was the mentality? I mean, was it a coaches only meeting? Was it a players only meeting that took place? Just anything to get you guys going?
Our out of district schedule this past season, was a lot tougher than the previous 2 years. There was no players only meeting, no coaches only meeting, anything like that. You just have to trust the process and continue doing what we do and get better at what we do. And we've been able to, click at a good time with our district schedule. And there were some games in those first 5 that, we had some control and just, we didn't kind of capitalize in certain situations. And, those teams won, and kudos to them. They did their job, and, we've just gotten better as we've gone along. But, again, for us, we approach every day the same. We approach every opponent the same. So we just got to keep that same mentality week in and week out and just make sure that we're locked in, we're loving each other, trusting each other, and trying to go 1-0.
Well, I know we pay attention to the schedule, and Gregory alluded to this earlier about us having a poll. And is there a particular game that you can sit there and say, yeah, we're back on it? I mean, I know I picked one out, and I thought the 55-7 win over William Byrd was almost like your turning point. I mean, of course, you won the week before that against Stanton River, but it just seems like you guys were clicking on all cylinders by that game.
Obviously, we played very well against Byrd. They're a good football team. But that was probably I would agree with that as far as, that game kind of was like, all right, we're where we want to be. And but again, everybody's prepping to beat us week in and week out, and we just got to approach it with that same mentality, man. So no matter who we're playing, no matter what win it was, every win is a good win. And again, you learn from losses and things like that. You also learn in winning. So we're not always perfect, but the more times that we can win each play, it gives us a shot to be successful on Friday nights.
And Coach, we keep saying William Fleming is not a team that you want to run into right now. I mean, you guys have become a bit of a buzzsaw, and obviously you probably know what you had since the beginning of the season, but just kind of going back to those last 4 games, really. And of course you have the win over Stanton River too, but Byrd, Northside, LB, Franklin County, very quality teams that y'all are just blowing out of the water. I mean, what did y'all find on both the offensive and defensive side of the ball in those last 4 games there?
We've offensively, we've just gotten better at what we want to do, and we've been able to run the ball really well, but then we've also been able to, take some shots and things like that. Our quarterbacks played really well, and I'm proud of him. And then defensively, I think our defense has been solid all year. We've had one game where, we've given up a lot of points, but outside of that, the defense has has been pretty consistent in executing their job and things like that. And as well as special teams too. Our special teams has done a good job. So, and not to say offensively we haven't, there was just a couple games where, we were in good positions and we just didn't, like I said, capitalize, and, just trying to figure out, week in and week out how we can improve, inside that 20-yard line, inside that red zone, things like that, and just not putting ourselves in bad positions.
Coach, kind of like you mentioned before, you guys made it to 2 region finals last couple of years. That's at least 6 games that last 2 years you get to play in the playoffs, some high stakes football. What does that experience mean to those juniors and seniors who have been through both campaigns there for this year?
Well, I think one thing that it does is that it creates an expectation. We expect to be in that position, kind of moving forward, but it's not guaranteed. This is playoff football. Everybody's gunning for the same goal. So again, we're not thinking we're just going to get to that point. Again, we got to, play Douglas Freeman tonight. We're going to have to play well. Hopefully we come out with that win, and then, going into next week facing either Highland Springs or Glen Allen. But again, we're not even focused on that at this point. I would say they're not focused on that next round either. We just got to worry about tonight. But, like I said, it creates an expectation of we want to get to at least that part, but then again, move beyond. We're trying to win a state championship year in and year out. And I'm one of those guys where, a lot of times you hear certain people talk about winning and that winning isn't everything. Well, I'm kind of the opposite. I think winning is everything. That's why you play the game. That's why we keep score. And you're going to be competing every day in life, until the good Lord calls your name. So, you got to have a winning mentality when it comes to jobs, when it comes to college applications, when it comes to anything that you're doing. You're always going to be in constant competition. So if to me, winning does matter, and otherwise we wouldn't practice, we wouldn't approach it the way that we do. So, I'm kind of a broken record with that 1-0 mentality thing. But I think that applies to life. You just got to win the day. You got to win the next hour at work. You got to win the next faculty meeting. You got to win, you got to win in practice, whatever it applies to. That's what we try to ingrain in our players.
Coach, they call me Max Prep Greg for a reason. I kind of get in there and delve in the details and stuff like that. But I'm looking at your schedule, and I know you're going to play Patrick Henry basically every year. With them being a rival school and plus 5A. But you play Verona, you play GW. You play Salem. I mean, is that something you're going to continue to do for years to come, or you're going to look at more into 5A? I know these teams don't hurt you whatsoever, as your strength of schedule is 14.9. on the positive side. So is this something that you're going to continue to do for the future to prep for that playoff run?
Ideally, yes. I think it for a couple reasons, it preps you for the entire season. It preps you for playoff time, and it preps you when you get to that Blue Ridge District schedule, because we've got a tough district, and teams are very physical. They're disciplined, they're well coached. So I think playing those, quality out of district opponents really helps us going into, the district schedule, and then hopefully into the playoffs. It gives you a true kind of mark of where you're at and what you really need to focus on working on and getting better at. So, moving forward, we want to play, tough competition. And then again, you also want to play teams that, outside of just playing, yourself, that are going to get wins throughout the season to help with those rider points and things like that. So, again, moving forward, we're looking to play quality competition because we're a quality football team as well. So, we want to be tested week in and week out and see what we're made of.
Coach, I know you're not worried about the next game, but I just want to look at the region as a whole, 5C. I mean, it looks like a pretty good region here. Of course, you have Patrick Henry, who's 2-0 there at the 1 seed. You have Hermitage, who has a history of, winning there. And then the new one kind of there is Highland Springs, who's been traditionally a 6A school. They're down in 5A now. So just as a whole, what do you think about Region 5C football?
It's a loaded region with teams. There's 16 of them in the region. Only 8 make the playoffs. And, Highland Springs moving back into the region presents a quality team. It's a very consistent region. And again, there's good football teams and there's good athletes and things like that. So, it's pretty good, but there's other good regions out there as well with some really good teams. But again, we're worried about, who we got to play. We're not worried about, anything else at this moment. So, we just take it one day at a time, 1 week at a time, one opponent at a time.
I did want to ask about the locker room. I mean, how are your guys doing? I mean, you guys have won 5 straight, like Devin was saying earlier. I mean, you guys are outscoring them 191-28 in the last 5 games. So,
guys feel good. We've had a good week of practice. And again, the biggest thing is, as I said, fighting for Mondays, and there's no more guarantees. And I told the guys early in the week, and I've said this every single year, how long do you guys want to stay together? How long do you want to keep this group of dudes, coming out here, working day in, day out, and enjoying the process and having fun? Because at the end of the day, it's all about having fun. You guys are choosing to be here as far as the players, and, you only get to do this for so long. Football is not something that you can really kind of play as a lifelong sport. Basketball, you can, play a pickup game, golf, things like that, whatever. Football only lasts so long, and Friday Night Lights just hits a little different. I think if you were to talk to any college or pro athlete, their fondest memories of football probably come from the high school level, just because of that brotherhood and those guys that you've grown up with, and they're your best friends, and you go to war with them week in and week out, and you practice against each other, you beat each other up, but at the end of the day, it's all love. So again, just these guys want to stay together. They want to extend the season, and they want a shot at that state title. So I think they feel good about tonight. We feel good about tonight, so we just need to go out and execute.
Coach, I want to ask you even a little bit further. What is a player like? I mean, I know he's not there this year, but a player last year, Malachi Coleman. What is type of player like that coming through your program do for you and the program?
Obviously, he was a very good football player. He's at Syracuse now, and the past couple of years we've had other great players as well. We've sent several guys off to play at the collegiate level, and we lost some really key guys from last year's team, but we've had some guys really step up and fill some big roles for us this season. Up front, offensive line wise, at receiver, and then at running back, Zy Steelman coming in and doing what he's doing as a sophomore. But we've also got we got 21 seniors, and these guys have been in the program since I've been here, and a lot of them are finally getting their shot to get on the field this year. We replaced, I think, 8 offensive starters from last year's team and 7 defensively, and they've really stepped up and executed well. So again, I'm just proud of our guys up to this point, and I'll continue to be proud of them, as they move forward in the future. So it's been fun, and we want to continue that fun, and that's the thing. It's all about having fun, doing your job and loving each other and trusting each other.
Coach, I know you have looked at the brackets, and I know you, like you said, you play that one game at a time. Looking back to 24, I mean, the script has kind of flipped a little bit, whereas, you guys were 1 and I think PH was 7. But I go back to, we talk about seedings all the time. I go back to 23 and, PH was 1 and you're 8. And who wins that game? You guys do. So do these seedings mean a whole heck of a lot, or how much does that home field advantage really mean to you going into the playoffs?
Well, obviously you want to play at home just because you don't want to have to travel. And again, we're in a Richmond, heavy region, so we don't want to travel to Richmond. But when it comes to playoff time, man, whether you're the 1, the 8, 2, 4, 6, whatever, it's it's playoff football. So you're going to get everybody's best. Everybody's trying to do the same thing we're doing. They're fighting for Mondays too. They want to stay together. And again, it's not just us that's trying to do it. It's every other team. So I kind of like you said, 2 years ago is a prime example. Us being the 8 seed, and then being able to perform well in that first round, and even in the second round with that overtime win against Freeman. It doesn't necessarily matter what your seed is. Everybody's a playoff team. Everybody in the playoffs is in the hunt to extend their season and try to get to that state championship and get a ring. So, I wouldn't say seeding necessarily matters, is what I'm trying to say. Again, it's playoff football. Everybody wants the same thing, so you got to go out there and give it your all.
I was going to ask too. So one thing that kind of obvious, 1 and 2A, maybe 3A. Usually the games are a little bit more local in terms of the playoffs. Don't have to do too much traveling. As far as 5, region or class 5, not too many 5A schools in the area. So of course you're going to have to travel, or teams are going to have to travel to you. I mean, have you noticed, is there a significant home field advantage or an advantage to having to travel or not having to travel when it comes to these playoff games?
Well, again, ideally you don't want to travel. You want to be at home. You get more of a chance to relax in a more comfortable setting and not have to take a 3-hour ride on a bus and get a little sluggish, if you will. And just being able to be here and keep our guys in our locker room and get their minds right in our locker room and do what we do. Obviously that's the advantage of it as far as when it comes to home field advantage. And obviously we want to play in front of our home crowd and, give this community something to be excited about and be able to play in front of them. So, you obviously want home field advantage. I don't think anybody wants to travel. Again, especially us with being in a Richmond heavy region, and avoiding that 3-hour bus ride.
Coach, do you ever put the picture of JMU Stadium up on the bulletin board or in the locker room? So, hey, this is where we want to be in December.
I don't put a picture up, but that's obviously where we want to be. Again, I'm a broken record, man. We take it one day at a time. We're not looking too far. Our opponent is Douglas Freeman, and it's going to be here at Colonel Stadium. So it's, we're worried about Colonel Stadium tonight. We're not worried about JMU just yet.
I'm trying to bait you. I'm trying to get you on that hook. I'm trying.
I understand. But no, it's obviously a goal of ours. Absolutely we want to be in JMU for sure. But again, our focus is tonight here at Colonel Stadium on Ferncliff Avenue.
Coach, for people who have not seen the Colonels play this year, what players do you have to rely on, and what players need to step up for you guys to make a run in the playoffs?
This is a team effort in all 3 phases: offense, defense, special teams. We've got some really good players, and it's up front for me. I mean, offensively and defensively, the trenches are where you win and lose football games, I believe. And obviously everybody matters in the back end and the secondary, the linebacker play, the skill positions offensively. But, we have good players. Quarterback Jahsir Preston's been a 3-year starter for us. He's gotten better each year. Zy Steelman's done a great job stepping in this year, and he's had obviously a fantastic year. Dede Faulkner's done a great job filling in, or not even filling in. He started last year. He's done a great job at our fullback position. Zion Baskerville this year, first-year starter at tight end, has done great. It's a total team effort. And then, again, defensively, Justin Barnett at the defensive tackle position and Jamari Hale at the end. And then, one of the best defensive players in the whole state, in my opinion, number 6, Giovanni Gonzalez at linebacker. I mean, he's done a fantastic job in being a leader and helping us, get to the position that we're currently in. So, it's a total team effort. I name those guys, but I want to name all of my guys because, again, it takes all 11 on the field doing their job. And specifically in football, I think when one guy doesn't do his job, I mean, it can affect the entire play. Whereas basketball, you can get one guy, to kind of take control, but it takes all 11 in the game of football. And that's no shot at basketball. I love the game of basketball. I grew up playing basketball. But the point is that we all have to execute, when our number's called. So, and again, it's in all 3 phases of special teams too. And we've done a decent job this year with our special teams.
Coach, I constantly hear that, you make your best strides or learn more between games 1 and 2 during a season. Just kind of curious about that. I know Verona was your first game. Second part of my question is, did you find that your offense was a little bit lagging behind the defense? Or, you were more like you were giving up tons of points and you were actually scoring quite a few points. So was there a magic button that clicked on either side of the football?
As far as between games 1 and 2, I think you have to give credit to Verona. Verona's a very solid football team. They came here, they did their job, and they went home with a win. But even the week before that, when we played Heritage, who was a very good football team in a benefit game, our last scrimmage, we had 2 kind of rough weeks with those. And we learned a lot about ourselves. Again, I think when you play quality opponents, that shows you where you truly are. And again, we scrimmaged EC Glass the week before Heritage. So again, you get 2 quality scrimmages, and then you have an opener with a team like Verona. You're going to find out real quick, where you stand and really what you got to work on. So, and again, credit to Verona. They're a very solid football team. I think for us, you brought up the offense. I think just us offensively, just trusting the process, trusting the system and executing and being good at what we want to do, and then being able to do things off of that. And obviously you want to score every single drive, but it doesn't happen sometimes. But you got to stay the course. And again, just trust the process and trust your team and trust your coaches.
And Coach, we've already kind of spoken a little bit about Freeman and everything, and feel free to expand as much or as little as you want on this, but are there any guys that you've seen that y'all need to kind of key in on, or anything that you've seen out of their game or play style that y'all need to kind of focus on in order to be successful tonight?
Again, across the board, like with the crunch, I don't know if you get, the crunch stuff, I fill that out every week, and they tell me players to watch for, and every single team that we play, I just say all of them. Because every player's, obviously if you're a starter on a varsity football team, you're capable of making plays in some capacity. So we just got to be ready for everybody. But their defense has been pretty solid all year. They haven't given up a lot of points. They're very aggressive. They fly to the football. It's 11 to the ball when they know where the ball is. Offensively, they've got some things. They like to run the football. A lot of play action. They do some things special team wise. They can be pretty aggressive on, like if we're punting or, they've got a couple fakes off of, if we're on punt return, things like that. So we just need to be dialed in and be ready for everybody. But they've got some good players, number 0, number 15, quarterback's pretty solid. Number 4 is a very aggressive corner. He's very physical. He's got kind of that corner mentality of, it's his side and he's going to protect it. So, but they've got a very solid football team. And even in the middle, their linebackers, 21 and 42, they're very solid. And 5 also comes in for them. And then up front, they've got some size, man. 55 and 75 for them at D end, or I guess D tackles with their 3-4. They're big, they're physical, and they're aggressive. So we're just going to have to execute and, trust what we do and, just try to go 1-0 every play.
Coach, you're this city of Roanoke as a whole. You guys are I think 2-2 against Patrick Henry. You have to correct me if I'm wrong, but with you both teams being as good as you are, making the region playoffs and having a really good season, what does that do for the community there, for Fleming, for your game days and the atmosphere you have on Friday nights?
It's very exciting. It's exciting for the city of Roanoke to have both teams in the playoffs, and it's been that way for the past 3 seasons. There's other teams around here that are in the playoffs as well. I can't remember the number off top, the number of Roanoke teams that are in the playoffs, but that's usually kind of how it is in this area. Granted, a lot of these teams are 3 and 4A, and there's only there's 3 teams in 5A in this area. But it's also nice to see, not just us and Patrick Henry. Franklin County's in the playoffs for the first time since 22, I believe. So again, there's just quality football in the area. So it's just a real exciting time for all these communities to watch the players that play for these schools extend their season and enjoy the process and have fun. And again, it's fun for the community, because we are a representation of this section of Roanoke. So we just want to go out there and perform well and, give a good product on the field on Friday nights, hopefully a couple Saturdays, and give this, community something to be proud of.
Coach, last one for me. William Fleming wins the game tonight over Freeman if they do what?
If we score more points than they do. I've said this numerous times on this interview thus far, but again, I say this to my guys every single Friday. We got to love each other. We got to trust each other, and you got to try to go 1-0 every play. And it's all about having fun. Just make sure you're having fun out there. You're communicating, your alignment, your assignment, what you need to do. And again, it starts in the trenches and just execution, relentless execution, effort, discipline, and again, trust and love, are going to get us to that next round. So we just got to lock in tonight, going against a very quality opponent in Douglas Freeman. They're going to be ready to go. Like I said earlier, they're wanting to extend their season as well. So, we just need to focus up and do our job and collect a check and have a nice weekend.
Coach, I just want to add this before we get off of here, and I can't thank you enough for your time, but I guess, you're number 7 in our poll. I know you don't look at polls, but, we took notice when you started beating up on teams, and especially after that Bird game. I just feel like, and you're not just beating teams, you're handling teams. You're giving them the business, as the old referee used to say. So I'm just going to let everybody know that this region is in for a load with Fleming coming in town. Devin alluded to it earlier. You are a buzzsaw right now, and I think they need to take notice. So good luck tonight against Freeman.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you. And we tell our guys every single week, we got to play our brand of football, and we got to make the other teams respect our brand of football, because if we can play our brand, it's going to be hard for anybody to try to keep up with us. And I'm not saying that to be arrogant. It's just a confidence builder and just trusting what we do, and believing that we're going to win doing what we do. And we've done that here recently, and we just got to continue that tonight.
All right, Coach, we do appreciate it. I know you got a lot to go through here to get ready for tonight, but Coach Leftwich, William Fleming Colonels head football coach. Coach, thank you so much for coming on with us.
Appreciate you guys for having me.
Appreciate it, Coach.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.